16. We are going back on the record. This is tape 4 of the videotape deposition of Bill Gates on August 28th.
Let me show you a document that has been previously marked as Government Exhibit 378. In the middle of the first page, there is a message dated May 14, 1997 from Ben Slifka to you and others. Did you receive this email on or about May 14, 1997?
I'm not sure, but I have no reason to doubt that I did.
When Mr. Slifka writes, as he does in the second paragraph, this summer we're going to totally divorce Sun. Do you know what he's referring to?
I'm not sure.
Did you ever ask him what he was referring to?
No.
In the next to last or in the last sentence, actually, in the last sentence of the second paragraph, Mr. Slifka writes that JDK 1.2 has JFC. And is the JFC there the Java Foundation classes that you referred to earlier?
It's one of the many JFCs.
What is one of the many JFCs?
The one in JDK 1.2.
Is the JFC in JDK 1.2 a part of what was described as a major threat to Microsoft?
I have no idea which JFC that sentence written by somebody other than me referred to.
Well, the sentence written by somebody other than you was written to you, right, sir?
It was sent to me.
Yes. And it was sent to you by one of your top executives, correct, sir?
In an email.
Yes. And that's a frequent way that your top executives communicate with you, correct, sir?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Slifka here says that Microsoft is going to be saying uncomplimentary things about JDK 1.2 at every opportunity. Do you see that?
Where's that?
That is JDK 1.2 has JFC, which we're going to be pissing on at every opportunity.
I don't know if he's referring to pissing on JFC or pissing on JDK 1.2, nor do I know what he specifically means by pissing on.
Well, do you know that generally he means by pissing on, he's going to be saying, and Microsoft is going to be saying uncomplimentary things?
He might mean that we're going to be clear that we're not involved with it, that we think there's a better approach.
Well, as you understand it, when Mr. Slifka says he's going to be pissing on JDK 1.2 as you seem to interpret it, at every opportunity, do you interpret that as meaning that Microsoft is going to be saying uncomplimentary things about JDK 1.2?
I told you I don't know whether pissing applies to JFC or JDK.
Well, he's going to be pissing on, or Microsoft's going to be pissing on either JDK 1.2 or JFC or both, according to Mr. Slifka. Is that at least fair?
It appears to be what the sentence says.
Yeah. And as the chief executive officer of Microsoft, when you get these kind of emails, would it be fair for me to assume that pissing on is not some kind of code word that means saying nice things about, but has the usual meaning that it would in the vernacular?
I don't know what you mean, this kind of email.
The kind of email that is sent to you by executives in the course of your business, Mr. Gates.
So all emails I get? Ben Slifka's not an executive.
All the emails you get from people telling you that they're going to piss on competitive products. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't remember mail like that. It looks like I got one, but believe me, it's not a term that's commonly used.
Okay. But you have no reason to think that he means it in any way other than the normal meaning of that term, do you, sir?
I think it's a term with multiple meanings. In this case, I think it means what you've suggested it means.
Okay. I thought it did too, and I hope to avoid actually going through the actual language. Okay, let me... Okay, ready? Mr. Gates, let me show you a document that has been previously marked as Government Exhibit 377. The second email here refers to what is attached as a final copy of the memo that was sent to you for Think Week in November 1995. Do you recall receiving this document, sir?
And what I recall about this document is that it's already been marked as an exhibit and that I spoke with Mr. Hauk about it yesterday.
That may be so. My question to you is, do you recall receiving this? Let me make it simple. Did you receive this memo in or about November of 1995?
As I said before, for my Think Weeks, I get about 3 cardboard boxes of materials that people put together for me. And in looking at this memo, it's not a memo that I'd seen before Mr. Hauk's depositions questions put to me yesterday.
So it's your testimony the first time you saw this document was when Mr. Hauk showed it to you yesterday?
That's right. It had a different exhibit number then.
Let me ask you to go to page 5 of the document, which bears in the bottom right-hand corner the Microsoft document production number ending 4683.
Okay.
Do you see the heading Shell Integration?
Yes.
Do you see the second sentence where it says, we will bind the shell to the Internet Explorer so that running any other browser is a jolting experience?
I see that.
Do you have any understanding as to what was meant by that?
I can guess.
First, this is in a memo that is entitled, How to Get 30% Share in 12 Months. Correct?
Let's take a look. Yeah, that's on the first page.
And is it clear to you that that is referring to getting a 30% share of the browser market?
I haven't read the document, but
Well,
it seems
sir.
likely that's what it is.
Okay. Now, do you have an understanding? I'm not asking you to guess, but do you have an understanding as to what is meant by the statement, we will bind the shell to the Internet Explorer so that running any other browser is a jolting experience?
I don't know what he meant by it, but I can tell you what it likely means.
Okay. I take it this is really how you would have interpreted this when you received it. Is that fair?
I didn't read it, so
I said if you had received it, this is how you would interpret it.
I said I didn't read it. I would have read the whole memo if I'd received it. I wouldn't have turned to that page and just looked at that one sentence. I would have read the memo from the beginning, page by page, and then I probably would have understood it better than I do at this moment.
If you do not have an understanding of what is meant by it, you can tell me. If you do have an understanding of what is meant by it, I would like to have it.
I don't know what he meant by it, but I'd be glad to guess as to what it might mean.
I don't want you to guess, but if you, as the Chief Executive Officer of Microsoft, can tell me how you would, in the ordinary course of your business, interpret this statement, I would like to have you do so.
Mr. Gates was prepared to do that quite a while ago. That was an unnecessary exchange. Go ahead, you may answer.
He may be referring to the fact that when you get a separate frame coming up on the screen, it's different than having something take place in frame. And part of our shell integration strategy, going back all the way to 1990, included the idea that as you navigated or browsed through different media types, you didn't have to have another frame come up, because that's sort of an artifact of having to think about applications instead of objects. And so as we looked at integrating the browser and the shell together, we were going to create a form of navigation optionally, but as the default, where you don't switch frames as you navigate the links from the shell to what's out on the internet back to what's in the local store.
Did anyone ever tell you, independent of this document, in words or in substance, that Microsoft intended to bind the shell to the Internet Explorer so that running any other browser is a jolting experience?
Well, certainly the idea of integrating in a way that made a better browsing experience was something we were talking about quite a bit. Those words, no, I never heard anything along the lines of those words.
The words that are in this document.
That's right.
Okay. Did Microsoft make any effort to discourage Apple from writing in JDK 1.2?
That never would have come up. Apple is not an application developer.
Let me back up. Did Microsoft ever make an effort to get Apple to discourage applications writers for Apple's machines from writing in what you have referred to as Sun's Java, or using the Sun Java runtimes?
I'm sure there was discussion with Apple about the fact that their unique operating system capabilities wouldn't show through with the least common denominator pure approach. Whether that related specifically to JDK 1.2 or not, I can't say.
When you say you're sure there were discussions, are you talking about discussions between Microsoft representatives and Apple representatives?
Yes.
what was Microsoft's interest in having Apple discourage application writers for Apple's operating system from using Java runtimes or JDK 1.2?
We thought they might share the view that applications showing off unique operating system features was a good thing, but
Could I have that answer right back?
We thought they might share the view that applications showing off unique operating system features was a good thing.
Was there any other reason, sir?
no.
Did you have, personally, any discussions with Apple with regard to trying to agree with Apple as to the extent to which Apple and Microsoft would compete with respect to Apple's QuickTime software?
No.
Do you know if anyone from Microsoft had such discussions with anyone at Apple?
I know over a course of years we've talked to them about what their plans are for QuickTime, but that's all.
Does Microsoft have software that competes with QuickTime?
Since QuickTime's a free runtime, you could answer that either yes or no. It's not a revenue source for Apple, but there is an Apple technology that has some common things with some Microsoft technologies.
Do you believe that QuickTime software competes with any software distributed by Microsoft?
Objection.
Depends what you mean compete.
Using that in the way that you would ordinarily understand it in the operation of your business, sir.
No.
Did you make any effort, or did Microsoft make any effort, to get Apple to agree not to market QuickTime in any respect, or to limit the marketing of QuickTime in any respect?
There were discussions about whether we could help them with their QuickTime goals at various points in time. And in fact, they encouraged us to do something where we'd actually, by working with them, make QuickTime even more popular than it is.
Could you read back my question, please?
Did you make any effort, or did Microsoft make any effort to get Apple to agree not to market QuickTime in any respect, or to limit the marketing of QuickTime in any respect?
Can you answer that question, sir?
Objection.
I'm not aware of anything that was directly aimed at those things, no.
Are you aware of anything that was indirectly aimed at those things?
No.
Did, to your knowledge, any representative of Microsoft try to convince Apple not to sell or promote QuickTime for uses for which Microsoft promotes the use of NetShow?
There was some discussion about the future development of the runtime code, and whether we could work together on the Windows side of that runtime code that would enhance their goals and our goals.
And was there a discussion in that context about Apple agreeing not to sell or promote QuickTime for uses that Microsoft was promoting NetShow to fulfill?
Not that I'm aware of.
Insofar as you're aware, did Microsoft representatives tell Apple representatives that if Apple would agree not to sell or promote QuickTime for uses for which Microsoft offered NetShow, that Microsoft would help Apple in other areas?
Well, as far as I know, the QuickTime runtime is free. So when you say sell, I'm not sure what you mean there.
I think I said sell or promote. I certainly meant to, but I will use the word distribute, if that will help.
I think there was a technical discussion about whether a common runtime was achievable, which would have enhanced their QuickTime goals.
When you say common runtime, would you explain what you mean by that?
I mean that the Windows Media Player runtime would combine technology from them and from us that met all of their goals for QuickTime.
And so there would be a Windows Media Player that would be distributed, and Apple would stop distributing QuickTime for purposes for which the Windows Media Player was distributed? Is that what you're saying?
No, they wouldn't have to stop anything. There would just be a new runtime that might incorporate some of their technology and help them with their QuickTime goals.
When you say there'd be a new program that would incorporate or might incorporate some of their technology, would that result in them stopping the distribution of their existing QuickTime technology?
There's no reason it would need to.
Was that part of the discussions?
I don't think so, but as I told you, I wasn't part of any of those discussions.
Were you aware of those discussions while they were going on?
I knew that Apple had the QuickTime runtime for Windows, and there was always a question of whether we could create a Windows runtime that combined what their goals were there and what they had done well there with the work we were doing. And I know we talked to Apple about whether we could help each other in an effort like that.
When you talk about helping each other, would that result in a single product that would then be distributed in place of both QuickTime and NetShow?
No, people could still distribute their old things, but if you create a new thing that's better, some people might use it.
Well, was the purpose of creating the new Windows Media Player that you referred to obsolete QuickTime?
Whatever functionality QuickTime had previously would be unaffected by any such effort.
That really wasn't my question, Mr. Gates. Maybe I can state it more clearly. Did Microsoft try to convince Apple to take actions which would have resulted in Apple no longer distributing QuickTime to people to whom Microsoft was distributing NetShow or a successor Microsoft product?
I'm not aware of anything that would have stopped them from distributing the QuickTime they had, but it was possible we could come up with something that would be helpful to both companies in terms of a product that took some of their technology and ours and was better for users.
Did Microsoft offer to have Apple continue to offer a multimedia player for the Mac platform and to assist Apple in that if Apple would agree not to distribute that multimedia player for the Windows platform?
As I said, I don't think there was any discussion about not distributing some old thing, but rather a question of could something new be created which would be better for both companies?
Was the idea that once this new thing was created, the old thing that Apple was distributing would no longer be distributed by Apple?
As I said, I don't think that was part of the discussion.
Have you ever been told anything, or have you ever read anything about any contentions that Apple may or may not make concerning these discussions?
No.
Are you aware of any assertions by Apple representatives that Microsoft representatives tried to get them to agree to divide the market?
No.
No one's ever told you that?
That's
your
right.
testimony? And you've never heard that from any source?
That's right.
Do I take it from what you said yesterday that if in fact Microsoft representatives had attempted to get Apple representatives to participate in a market division, that would be contrary to Microsoft policy?
Objection.
That's right.
And I take it that if you found out that people had done that, contrary to Microsoft's policy, they would be appropriately dealt with?
Yes.
Are you a regular reader of the Wall Street Journal?
Some days I read the Wall Street Journal.
Are you aware of a Wall Street Journal article that discusses assertions by Apple concerning alleged efforts by Microsoft to get Apple to agree to divide markets?
No.
Mr. Boyce,
Yes.
is the Antitrust Division contemplating filing an amended complaint in this action?
No?
Are these questions being asked pursuant to the complaint that was filed in this action?
Yes?
I think they're outside the scope of that complaint.
I do not. I think that the pattern of Microsoft in terms of attempts to divide markets and the effect of those attempts on Microsoft's monopoly power and the evidence of Microsoft's monopoly power that comes out of those attempts are all directly relevant to the case.
You could plead a complaint like that.
I
haven't yet.
I think that complaint is clearly so pled. I think this is clearly within the scope of the complaint.
Let me ask you a different question. Have you prioritized your questions today so that you've asked the ones that are most important to you?